Hey guys, welcome back. This is a little bit of a different episode. My guest this week is Rachel Mazza. I actually just hired Rachel, which cost me tens of thousands of dollars because she really is the best at what she does. But I hired her to help me develop some digital products and turn this podcast into an actual, business. So we talk about the different kinds of digital products. I talked to Rachel about how to package and sell your knowledge in a way that actually makes you money. We go over what a sales funnel is and how to maximize the profits per month. We talk about how to actually provide enough value to justify your price. Then we talk about pricing your products, and we go over a whole lot more. Rachel's a real rock star in this world, and I'm very happy to be working with her. If you've ever even thought about starting an online information-based business, this episode is a must listen. My name is Henry Bingaman. This is Getting Out of the Machine. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. Today, my guest is Rachel Mazza. I have actually just hired Rachel to help me build out some products of my own. So this is kind of going to be a behind the scenes look into some of the things I'm doing with my business. Rachel was a direct response copywriter, I guess technically still is, but she really specializes in building digital products now. And she's worked with some of the biggest names in internet marketing. She's an integral part of Kevin Rogers' Copy Chief Group. So Rachel, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thanks. We're doing some fun stuff here.
Yeah. So can you kind of give people a little bit about your background just so they get to know you?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been a direct response copywriter for many years, kind of used that skill to freelance my way around the world, did the whole digital nomad thing, and even started and grew a successful copywriting agency at one point until I quickly realized I hated running an agency and shut that down to work one-on-one with clients again. And that's when I met Kevin around that time, was looking to go back into full-time freelancing, and actually hired him as my business coach. We worked together for several years, and then it just kind of organically evolved into me being really integrated into his business because he was my coach. I'd been a member for a long time. So I knew Kevin, I knew his voice, I knew the products. I was a product of the products. So it was kind of an organic evolution of how we started creating offers together. And I just got a really great system down for doing that. Have helped other people do that now. I've developed my own offers, of course. And it was a very natural and organic evolution just by digging into the content myself.
Yeah, that's interesting. So how did you kind of decide to make the leap to, all copywriters like to specialize in something, but you've specialized in something that I think a ton of people are interested in doing. Obviously I'm interested in building out some products for myself. I'm working on a book, as you know, but like it's just an interesting niche to choose. So how did you kind of fall into that specific area?
Yeah. So this is what I love about specializing is you don't have to do that for life. Like, I think people have such a hard time picking a specialty because they're like, okay, this is my identity now. I can never do anything else again. And it's just not true. I mean, for years, I was known as, and am still very much known for advertorials, which is a type of copy that kind of goes in between the ad and the sales page to warm people up. And I have a course in advertorials. That was my first product that I built out. And I had chosen that because I had this agency that specifically wrote copy for affiliate marketers doing SEO. So like SEO affiliate guys, right? And so they would mostly use blog posts to drive traffic to the affiliate offers that they were building sites and promoting. And that's basically an advertorial, right? And so I had written hundreds and hundreds of these pages across multiple niches. And I didn't even know what an advertorial was at that point. This was years ago. And it was actually Kevin that pointed out, he's like, oh, it sounds kind of like an advertorial. And I was like, oh, guess that's my specialty now. So that's how that started. And it allowed me to get in the door with clients, kind of that step one service. And then, of course, you always want to go deeper. Once you have the advertorial, like it needs to go to a sales page, right? So I started writing out the long form sales pages, and it was kind of that good entry point to working with new clients. And as I started working with more clients and doing bigger packages, the more successful I got with working with these clients, the less I actually wanted to write all the copy. I think it's just so common. A lot of copywriters reach the top of the pile and they're like, I don't know if I want to do this forever.
It's exhausting.
You're going through that yourself, right?
Yeah, it's exhausting writing those really long, especially in financial and health, you're competing with the best of the best. So you have to put so much effort into it. And sure, it's great when you have a promo that does $10 million or something, but man, it takes like a year off your life. It feels like sometimes to write those things and hit the deadlines. Yeah. And then there's all these projects that can go wrong. I just actually, one of my old students, mentees, I guess, just showed up to worked for several months on a project, showed up to filming, and then they had to cancel a project.
Oh man.
because the head of the company or something got indicted for securities fraud, like some big, like, oh yeah,
Classic.
there's no way. But so it's like, it's exhausting, and then it can go wrong at the end. So yeah, having like this specialty. And when I started out, I started focusing on health. And then I started working with Jed Cansey and got more into specializing in finance. And people, I changed what I do several times over the course of my career. People think they're getting stuck in one area when you go into it, but it's really actually, as long as you've done good work and your clients like you, they always accept you moving to a different specialty.
Yep. Yep. Well, and that's the thing, you can go back. It's not like you can never do that thing again either.
Right.
Like I just wrote a big magalog for a health supplement, but like we said, it's exhausting. And so I didn't want to do it all myself. So I actually had one of my coaching students write it and I chiefed them through it. And that was way more fun, but I still get to play with the copy. I still get to keep my chops sharp, still connect with those clients that need that type of work. I like to keep my options open. But mostly these days I do mostly consulting and then managing the projects. So I'm what we call an EOS integrator or an integrator. It's from the system called EOS, but some people call it like a chief of staff or a COO or a CMO. It really, I hate all these titles, but basically I take people who have great visions and I make their visions go. And so that's what I do mostly. So part of that's product development, like we're talking about, but we're also going to build out a funnel together, right? So It isn't like I just hand you a thing and see ya, Henry, good luck, So sometimes it's that, I helped Kevin build a team. We were 3 or 4 people scaled to 20 people. Wow. And everyone has a very specific seat on a very specific accountability chart where they've got success metrics that they're responsible for. So that's another way that I can help implement his vision by setting us up to be able to scale. And
it's been fun. It's been fun watching. So I met Kevin in 2011 at a John Carlton seminar. And at the time, he was just this hotshot ClickBank copywriter. He was getting all these great offers out there. And it's been really fun watching him grow copychief.com and watch it scale. And I don't think he'd have any problem with me saying, I think you've been a big part of that over the last couple of years.
I think we both feel it.
So you mentioned EOS implementer. What does that stand for?
Yeah. So this is still very new to me. So we've been working with the EOS system for just over a year now. So EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. Okay. And it's just another system. I know that Adrienne Dorson has run Like Clockwork, which is she's a partner with Mike Michalowicz, who wrote Profit First. They have a system for running their business. For us, we chose EOS because it was simple. We knew lots of people that were doing it. I know Todd Brown runs his business on EOS. Casey Stanton runs his business on EOS. So we knew people that were working with the system and it worked really well for them. And it's hard to explain. It's not like you have levers that you pull. It's really a series of tools that create accountability, but allow you to step out and trust your people to do their best work. And you do that by getting really specific with who's in what seat, defining the seats in your business, right? What are they responsible for? What are the specific numbers that they need to hit in order to know that they're being successful in their role? And then setting up processes to let them do their best work without constant babysitting and nitpicking and that kind of stuff. So we've got a pretty robust accountability chart. It's got 20 seats on it now, but we just started with Rachel was doing everything. I was sitting in all the seats, supported, of course, by really key people in the business. I wasn't doing everything, but I was filling all the holes that we didn't have in order to be able to scale the business, right? So I was the CMO and I was the copywriter and I was the person that managed the media buyer and I was the person that made sure that the members were taken care of and I coached our coaching programs and I built our coaching programs and I sold our coaching programs. And so I was just filling all these holes, right? And so what we did is break down everything that I was doing to help the business scale and then assign that to a specific role on what we call our accountability chart. And once we started with the structure instead of the person, oh, we really like Mike, we want to work with him, let's make a seat for him. Oh, we really like Sarah. Instead of starting with the person, we started with the role. And then it was easy to say okay, who do we have right now in our world that would be a good fit for this role? So by doing it the other way, by starting with the structure instead of the people, you're able to see the needs of the business and where you want to go. And you're not, we say, don't protect a person, a paycheck, or a process. If you do that, you know that you're not serving yourself or your business well, or the person. And so by starting with the structure, make sure that you're not bending what shouldn't be bending in order to fit what's already there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like me, I imagine Kevin and I are somewhat similar in a lot of ways where like I like to have the big ideas. And then when it comes down to implementing it, it's like, oh, make it stop. Like having a business with 20 employees, it just blows my mind even trying to comprehend it. So it's very interesting that you're able to step in and kind of turn that the vision that Kevin always has and these other entrepreneurs you work with into a reality.
Yeah, I was just going to say like that. I think it's just about like breaking down complex things into simple pieces, right? Like little pieces, which is what we do in copy all the time. So I think it was just being a copywriter. It's just very natural instinct to do that. And I just applied it to business operations instead.
That's cool. So I want to talk about digital products in general.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people want to turn their knowledge into a product somehow, but can you kind of go through, because when we were talking originally, you're like, oh, do you want to do a book, a course, a mini course? You know, I don't know. There's a million other things that you talked about. Can you kind of talk about the different types of digital products that there are and what works, I guess, for different types of knowledge or teaching styles?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, I think it's good to like step back and see like they're all the same in a way where most people pretty much have most of the answers to any problem that they could come up with, right? Like we all know that if we want to lose weight, then we need to stop eating crap and exercise more. Like everyone knows the answers. We just don't do it. And either it's because we don't think that it's going to work for us. Like we think we're some special exception, right? We don't trust ourselves. We don't believe that we can do it. It's that fear of failure. Or we need someone to hold us accountable. Like life is hard. It's not people's fault that they can't achieve all their goals. Life is a lot to deal with, right? And so we need a plan, we need structure. And so really choosing the product is what kind of structure are you going to offer to people? So if it's someone like, I think it depends on your audience a lot. So if you're dealing with like high level business owners, they do not want your freaking course. They don't want to sit there and watch 10 hours of videos and then do homework assignments. They want to hack and they want results immediately, right? They're busy people. So something like showing up for a once a month mastermind where they get to sit in a hot seat and someone gets to tell them exactly what to do, like a smart room of people get to tell them exactly what to do, is a lot more appealing to them than sitting down and doing a 10 module course, right?
Sure.
But someone who's just starting to learn, or maybe they're not working in whatever they're doing, like maybe they're not a professional freelancer yet, right? So they would be more apt to get more information first, right? They want to sit down. They want someone to build out a very detailed step-by-step plan so they don't have to think about the doing. They don't want to think about anything that they have to do. They just want to say, okay, do this, good, done. Okay, do this next. Okay, done. Because once they start thinking about it, that's where all those doubts and fears and everything comes up. And they just want someone to lay out a plan for them. So something like a step-by-step course would be a lot better for them. Whereas someone's just seeking information, a book would be a lot better, right? If they're not ready to take action, they're probably not going to invest in a course, especially if it's expensive. They don't want to have that commitment. They want to be able to sit down and gather information and then be left alone to decide what's the next best step for them. So it's really about who you're marketing to and where they're at on this journey of wanting to do the thing that they say they want to do.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's good to think about. It's always start with your customer, right? Like what's actually going to serve them the best, because you know, how many times have you bought some course or product that the marketing was really slick and you get in there and it's just like, oh, it's not even, you can just feel that something's wrong. Like you feel like you weren't provided the value that you were promised in the sales letter. So how do you, I guess, make sure you're delivering value in digital products?
Yeah. So the way that I like to do it, I actually learned this from my friend, Chris Orzakowski, who's so great at this kind of stuff.
Yeah. The email guy. Chris
the email guy. Exactly. Chris is great. He's got his own agency now. So he's doing the same thing. He's like, I don't want to write emails anymore. I just want to be the boss man. So he's got a whole team now. But he's the one, when I was creating my advertorial course, my first course, I was trying to think about like the best way to do it. And he said, it's super simple. Just get a piece of paper, write a line down the middle of the paper. And like at this end of the line is people know nothing. And this end of the line is people are extremely, what would you call it? Capable or an expert. And then like put tick marks along the line. And like, what are those stages that people need to pass? What are those benchmarks or milestones people need to pass to move along the line in a way that they won't feel lost, or they'll feel confident, or they'll feel like they're making progress. And then each one of those tick marks could be its own course. It could be a lesson. It could be a book or something. You can decide how robust each tick mark needs to be, depending on how complex it is or how people want to consume the information. But that way you've got a really clear linear learning path. And that's exactly what we did with Kevin's course for newer freelancers. It's called Escape Velocity. We sat down, we're like, okay, if someone knew nothing about copywriting or freelancing, what would they need to know in order to launch a successful freelance business from scratch and land those first few clients, which is the hardest part. And we built out a curriculum, step by step, like, what do you need to know if you have no idea how to do what comes semi-naturally to most people who are entrepreneurs or business owners, to just kind of stumble along until they figure it out.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I love that model. It's also giving people a clear path to follow. Like, it's hard to, I think that's one of the things you get in a product and it's all just information, instead of having a course to like an actual, like, oh, I'm at step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think that feeling of satisfaction comes from progressing within a course and actually feeling like, oh, I made it to this step. Oh, I made it to this step, and seeing the real results in your life. Yeah. One of the things I wanted to talk about is, I guess it's the different types. So it's very interesting. As you know, I'm writing a book, and I've done a bunch of like video trainings and PowerPoints and teachings before. And those are relatively easy to create. You just sit down and you're spewing out your knowledge. And yet a book is this, like, you really have to think it through. You have to make sure it's written very well. It has to present, and it's, at 20,000 words in right now. And it's way harder than any course I've ever put out. And it's going to be the cheapest thing I sell. So
funny how that works.
Yeah. But so how do you think about pricing a product? Because there are very different price points for different types of products, and people have very different expectations. What's funny is a book has rather high expectations for a low price point, but it's very widely accessible, I guess. Whereas a course is a little harder. So how do you think about what you're putting in a course versus how you price it?
Yeah, it's interesting. This is such a deep rabbit hole, as you know. Like, what should things cost? Because, like, a lot of times we're just making it up, right? And if they don't buy it at that price, we change the price. Of course, there's like best practices and things like that. But it's interesting you brought up the book, because books are a huge undertaking to create many times, and fairly low price with high expectations. But you also have to remember there's a big commitment in a book too. Like, if you sit down to read a book, like you only paid a little bit of money, but you're paying a lot of time and attention, right? It takes like a minute to sit down and read a book. And so I do think that it kind of balances out where once you get into it, you're committed. And so I feel like that kind of balances expectations a bit. And you also, it requires patience, right? Like, you go through a book, like, you are waiting for the end for things to pay off. And so I think you're willing to be a little bit more patient, I guess, with your expectations being met. Whereas a course, like, you get the outline of the course and you can see all the lessons, and you want to know, like, hey, by the time I get here, this better pay off. So I think it really comes down to where does it fit in your business more than like how much value it provides, because everything you put out should provide immense value, right? Like, if I had people sell a template for a sales letter for like $10, and then like people go make millions of dollars by just using that template over and over again, right? So things like that, it's just so arbitrary, the value to price ratio. So I think it's more about where does it fit in your business, and where do you want someone to eventually end up in your business, right? So if your goal is to bring people into your world who don't know you and then book you for high level consulting, that's a very different price point for your book, which then goes to a course that walks people through how to implement what's in your book. You're almost paying to nurture your best leads, which is exactly what we do with Escape Velocity. Like I mentioned, we take someone who's never freelanced, who's never written a piece of copy, and we nurture them into the perfect lead for our high-level coaching mastermind. Because then we don't want anyone to come into the mastermind who we don't know we can't help succeed. We want them to make sure that they do a good job, right? So by going through this program, we've nurtured them into our world, but also the perfect person for us to help now, which is great. So it's good for them, good for us. Same thing. We're doing the same thing right now with Banyan Hill, a Copy Chief. So we're working with Aaron DeHoog and Joshua Lee Henry. They're teaching a financial copywriting course inside Copy Chief. It's huge value to the members. They're getting a world-class education in financial copywriting, but then Banyan has nurtured their best copywriters. And so of course they're going to go hire from that pool, right? It's mutually beneficial all the way around, from beginning to end and like way beyond.
Yeah, first of all, Aaron's great. I worked with him back in the Newsmax days when he built that company to the money news, their financial side. He didn't have anything to do with the political side, but he built that from like $1 million to $100 million along with Jed Canty. He's just a really talented dude. So, I mean, yeah, that's a world-class education that he's given your students there.
Yeah. People, it's like, I'm blown away when people don't realize. I'm like, you have no idea. Like, just, it's free, basically. Just get in there. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. I think the other thing people need to kind of understand when it comes to pricing is people don't understand. A lot of people that haven't been in the business world don't understand like a loss leader. They don't understand that that book is actually, you put in the effort because you're bringing people into your world. So it's a one-time effort, whereas sometimes courses, there's a lot of coaching and live calls and access to you. And I think the more access to you or your experts or whatever it is you're selling that you give away, the higher the price point.
It's
right?
your
That's
time,
why,
right?
Yeah.
The more time that you give.
Yeah. Like the consulting is, I charge $1,500 an hour now. So that's a lot of so my commitment when I'm doing the Ask Me Anythings or the Q&As or the, actually live coaching people through it, I'm giving away that slot that I could have sold to a client. So whereas the book, technically I'm giving it all away now, but that book lasts years, right? A book is a kind of an evergreen thing. Whereas those live coaching courses, I'm willing to lose money on the book essentially with the time invested because the back end is where you make all your sales up.
Exactly. And that's something that if someone's not sophisticated in business or they're just getting into business, it's such a hard concept to grasp that like you don't make money selling something if you don't know like the pieces that go on in the background, right? Like I think the financial publishing industry is such a good example of this. They sell one thing, right? It's a subscription and it comes in all different packages in all different ways, but they mostly lose money when they bring in names and spend millions of dollars on the front end, right? Because they're so confident that their back end products will win for them. All about that.
Well, I have a health client that I worked with for years that we sold a weight loss program, still selling. And I think they would spend, it was like a $47 initial sale for the videos and the diet books and all that stuff. And I think they would spend up to like $90 to get that customer because they knew within 60 days, that customer on average would buy enough supplements. They'd get in their membership coaching program. And so they'd get them to a $100 customer over the course of that first 3 months. And so then as long as you can sustain the loss for the first couple months, that's how you actually scale a business is you lose money on the front end.
Yeah. And this is where like, I know that all of us are kind of cowboys. Like we're just like, let's just do it and see what happens. But this is where like, once you start getting into that, it's so important to get your systems down for tracking reporting because to be able to calculate that lifetime value is not easy. It's like things get convoluted, right? It's like, did this lead come from your Tom Woods interview that you did? Or did this lead come from a paid ad? Like you really got to nail it down because you can go broke really fast if you don't know which leads are turning into your big customers on the back end.
Yeah, I've seen it happen. Hey guys, it's Henry cutting in really quick. If you're enjoying this episode, I have another video I think you'll really love, especially if you're interested in copywriting. In 2019, the legendary copywriter Clayton Makepeace invited me to speak at his financial copywriting intensive. And he wanted me to talk about how I come up with my big ideas for copywriting promotions. So I boiled the process down to just 8 steps, 8 questions really, to ask yourself to take a weak idea and turn it into a monster that does $1 million, $10 million, or even $100 million in revenue. You can get that talk by going to henryb.co/idea. Once you sign up for my email list, you'll get that talk and a whole lot more goodies. Again, that's henryb.co/idea. All right, let's get back to the show. We launched a product with one of my financial clients, and the initial launch, it converted fairly well, but they went way in the red to promote it based on assumptions of other products in the past and how those customers had panned out over their lifetime value. And they ended up losing like $1 million before they brought it back down to a reasonable spend. And, it was great seeing 2,000 customers come in a day. But then when you realize 6 months later, it's like, oh, we're still in the red. It's going to take us 3 years to recoup this money from these subscribers. So
Let's talk about that. Like, what's the vanity metrics that you think people should ignore that could be hurting your business when they look exciting and fun?
I don't think there are any real vanity metrics necessarily. Like, I don't know, maybe impressions is on ads is a vanity metric, but for the most part, where people get in trouble is they don't look at the bigger picture, right? They take one thing. Oh, I have a 5% conversion rate on this sales page. I can just blow this thing out. That's amazing. Like, yeah, but you're selling a you're selling a $29 product and you have no back end. Like, what are you can't look at things in isolation. I think you have to be able to take a holistic look at the entire sales funnel. So let's actually talk about sales funnels, because that's one of the other things. I have all these ideas for products and things I can teach people. I have, a decade and a half of experience in the marketing world. So, and a lot of people, I've had a lot of success with a lot of people. So there's a million different ways I could teach things. But one of the reasons I hired you is, first of all, you're an implementer, and like, yeah, I have these ideas, but if I don't pay somebody to actually make me do them and you're going to get the work done. I just won't do it. But the other thing you're doing with me is helping me sit down and think about the actual funnel and how we're going to promote it and different ways of getting customers. And like, all right, what's step 1, step 2, step 3? What's the bump offer? How are we going to maximize lifetime value? How are we going to make sure we're serving the customers the best way? So can you kind of talk about constructing a funnel? Because that's something that you're one of the experts at.
Yeah, definitely. This is always an experiment, right? But I like to start with bringing people into the front end, right? And so that's good, because that's going to allow you to vet those offers so that you don't have a big disaster blow up, like you mentioned, right? If you don't want to invest so heavily in one product or one piece of your funnel, and when you're just guessing, because it's all just guessing, whether you're developing product, building a funnel, writing a sales letter, it's all just guessing.
Hopefully you testing.
You get a little bit better at the guessing as you go, but still, it's just, we don't know what's going to work until we test it, right? And it's the same with products. And so when building the funnel, I like to start with the front end, because that's going to allow you to open up a dialogue. So we're going to talk about this next. When we jump off here, we're going to go do some real work, and we're going to talk about like, okay, let's test some ideas. How can we do that? And so you can't have that conversation if you don't have people in your world. So having a product, having something of value to offer, and bringing people on your email list or wherever you live, right? That's where I like to start. And then you can open up that dialogue and start asking questions and figuring out what people want before you invest a ton of money and resources and energy building the thing that you think is a genius idea. But we know that rarely, when our genius ideas, they need to be vetted too, right?
Yeah, it's always my dumb ideas that end up taking off for some reason.
Well, it's the same, like when I was in like affiliate marketing and like building out, it was like the ugliest, nastiest sales pages that converted best, right? Like no design. It's crazy. It's mind-boggling how it works. But then I like to create good problems and then solve those problems to build out the funnel. So like, you've identified a problem for someone, you've told them you can fix their problem, and that's how you brought them into your world on the front end. So whatever you give them, whether it's a free opt-in, whether it's just a front end product, like a low cost product, whatever it is, I like to use that to solve their problem and then create another problem. So for example, if you don't know how to do copywriting, maybe I would show you how to basic copywriting skills and help you become confident in your copywriting skills. Okay, now I know how to copywrite. How do I get paid for it? Oh, good problem. Okay, so now I'm going to teach you how to get paid to use your copywriting skills. Okay, great. So now I've booked clients. I have a successful business, but I am charging way too little and I'm totally booked up and people are banging down my door and I'm so overworked and burnt out. It's like, okay, how do you get paid more to do less work and put really good boundaries in with your clients? Okay, that's another good problem. So you're escalating the level of problem with each step in your funnel, whether it's related to the same product. So like maybe you have a course and then you offer an upsell to get a workbook to walk you through that course. Whatever you're offering has to solve a problem that you created in the last step. And then it's endless, right? You're never going to be completely satisfied, and people are never going to want to stop consuming information. And so eventually you should stop because it becomes a lot to manage, but it's a good way to build out a robust funnel quickly.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, they end up with a product. So John Carlton talks about this. Dan Kennedy talks about it. Sometimes you have a product, not a business. So I think it's that progression of like, yeah, all right, what are I guess it is in some way, what are the problems I created for my customers now? And how do I solve that? Because every new step in life comes with new problems. So yeah, I like the way of I like that method of just solving your customer's next problem in order to build out a funnel.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff.
So, all right, I guess the first step for anybody that's watching this, they want to start an online business. They've been thinking about it. They have some skill that they built up over years, but the first place you have to start is getting your own email list, typically.
Yes.
And you showed me a really good hack. I think you also stole it from Chris.
Yeah, I have to give Chris Orzakowski credit. He's like, anything list building, I learned it from Chris.
All right. Can you kind of share that little tip you gave me? Because I thought it was a really good idea.
Sure. Google Chris Orzakowski after this so he doesn't sue me. No, I'm just kidding. But
I think he wrote an article that you sent me. I could put the link in the show notes here.
Yeah, let's definitely put the link because I've used this so many times and I love it. And so I use this Chris technique with a combination of a technique I learned from Dean Jackson, which, Henry, he calls it the 9-word email.
Oh, yeah.
And it's literally like, hey, I'm getting some libertarian friends together to discuss the fall of America. Would you like to join? And it's like, then people reply and say, yeah, I'm in. And so it's just a really simple, they say it's a 9-word email. It can be a 13-word email, but just one sentence. He used it for real estate agents, where he would teach them this. They would send it out to their email list of customers and said, hey, are you still interested in buying a house? Aaron. And that's it. And then people think it's personal. They reply. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I meant to get back to you. I used to use this all the time with clients. I would say, like, people either wouldn't pay me at the beginning because I didn't know charge up front. And I'd be like, hey, I need you to pay that invoice, Rachel. And so I'd use it that way, but also to get people to book me. Right. Like, people would ghost me because they weren't quite ready to make a commitment. And I would just say, like, hey, did you still want to get started on this copy project, Rachel? And that always got the best response. So it's that with Chris Orzechowski's, he calls it, I think it's like how to get your first 600 email subscribers. So you just do this on social media. You go to your social media and you say, like, hey, I'm thinking of building a thing for this audience, right? So mine that I did when I launched my advertorial course was, I'm thinking of outlining my system for helping to scale offers on cold traffic. Would you be interested? Let me know below and I'll add you to the list. It'll be ready in a couple of weeks. And so that's the Chris technique, is like, I'm building this thing. It's going to be ready in a couple of weeks. If you're interested, let me know. I'll add you to the list. So that does two things. First of all, you get to add a bunch of people to your list that are really interested in what you want to do, but you've also just vetted your offer idea. And so if no one raises their hand, then you're like, maybe I shouldn't build this system for scaling to cold traffic. Maybe I should talk about writing faster or something like that. So you're vetting your offer idea and you're building your list. And now you've got a short list of people that you can launch it to, which is also cool.
Yeah, I think so. That is a great way to, first of all, when you're doing it on social media, it's people that already follow you for whatever reason. Like, we all have 5,000 Facebook friends from who knows where. They're not really all our friends. I don't want to burst anybody's bubble, but those 4,000 people on Facebook don't all know you that well. But it's a great way to build out your initial list with people that already somewhat trust you. So from there, one of the steps I'm at is I have just about 1,000 subscribers on my email list. It's still a relatively new business that I've launched. I'm only releasing these one podcast a week and writing a couple emails. So what is the next step? I'm just using this as free consulting time. What's the next step in growing your list? After you can't do that social media thing forever. Eventually you'll tap it out. It's a great way to seed your list. But what are some other good techniques for growing an email list?
Yeah. So first of all, I think you could translate this technique very well to ads, right? So all you need to do is put a qualifier or some sort of introduction sentence in front of it to let people know who you are, who might not already know you. Of course, you can send ads to warm audiences as well. So people who probably do know you, maybe they've bought something else that you had. Maybe they are like another expert that had you on their podcast, or listen to your episode, right? So like, for example, if I wanted to expand this to people who don't know me, I could do the exact same thing where I said, hey, I'm building a system to help people scale to cold traffic. Do you want in? I could then target people who had visited my episode on Kevin's podcast.
Okay.
Right. And so I've been on Kevin's podcast and I could target people who visit that page. And even if they don't know me or they're not part of my personal network, they probably know who I am and probably know about what I do. And so if I sent that as an ad to people who had landed on that page, it's just through retargeting, like Facebook, YouTube, anyone will allow you to do that stuff with their algorithms. Then all of a sudden I've scaled the exact same technique to a different audience that I wouldn't have been in front of in the first place.
Yeah, that's great, because you're reaching out to people who've already have some level of knowledge about you. So you don't have to establish the authority. Like in all these cold traffic ads that we do, the hardest thing is establishing any kind of authority. So why should I listen to you? There's a million people trying to sell me stuff. Like, who the heck are you?
Well, that's why I like the advertorials, is because like the best kind of cold traffic to go after is traffic that isn't really cold, right? And so if you can like warm them up somehow, you're always going to be better.
Yeah, that's why front ends are the hardest thing to sell, because you have to establish the believability. Even though they're the lowest price, it's always funny to me that the lower price things are often harder to sell. Yeah, because you're not selling a $2,000 course to your to cold traffic ever, right? Doesn't happen that often. I mean, some people have made it work, but it's usually
they have a sales team or someone's going to jump on a call,
or they're celebrities in their niche. So people already know them. So there's already some level of trust established there.
Right.
Like Russell Brunson, who built ClickFunnels to whatever hundreds of millions it's at now. he could put out an ad selling a $2,000, here's how to use ClickFunnels, because everybody already knows him.
Yeah.
But, I have a very niche micro celebrity among copywriters. I can't go out to the world and do those techniques with people that have never heard of me before.
But you just mentioned another really good technique is leveraging other people's audiences, right?
Yes.
By you going on other podcasts, or you doing guest blogging, or getting in front of people as an expert to someone else's list or someone else's audience, all of a sudden now they're your warm traffic, right? So that's like a really like leapfrog way to expand your audience, and the people that you can target is by leveraging other people's lists, someone to give you street cred or that third-party credibility.
Yeah. And I haven't seen people doing guest blogging that much. I know there's a couple sites that still do it, but podcasts seem to be the new guest blog, like going on somebody else's podcast or somebody else's show. The YouTube network is huge. The podcast, my downloads are 6 or 7 times on podcasts what they are on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting where you find your niche and expand from there.
Well, that's another thing. I think you can pick one. Like, I think there's this fallacy that you have to be everywhere. And that's like so freaking exhausting. First of all, is like, oh, I have to be on Instagram and Facebook. And I've never even logged into TikTok. I don't even know how to use TikTok. Like, like all that stuff, like just pick one and just like dominate that one. So we did some consulting recently with Perry Belcher, who grows companies to like $10 million, right? And he had this whiteboard, and it was incredible because he literally just wrote like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And he's like, you have one offer, one product to one audience in one geolocation from one traffic source. And he's like, just do all that first. And then if you double even one of those, if you go to like a new geographical area, you've 10x your results. If you just take all of the exact same thing and bring it to one new audience, you've 10x your results. But if you can have a very robust business, just having one thing for one person in one area and getting in front of them one way. And like, if you can nail that, you're bulletproof, because all you have to do is just like add one extra piece in there. And now you've just like skyrocketed to the moon. Yeah.
That's actually an interesting point. How many offers do you think you can stack on top? So, all right, can you actually define funnel for people? Because we have some people that don't know the marketing world that well.
Yeah. Okay. So I personally, like when I think of like a funnel in my head, it goes like this because I need someone to come in here and like come out the other end. But like an easier way to conceptualize it is if you literally think of like a funnel, right? So like water goes in and it comes out a little spot at the end. That you think of a funnel, you want to get like all the chaff, like everything as much as you can in the top. And so you might just have ads that go to a wide audience. You might just put links everywhere. You just want to bring as many people as you can, as relevant as you can, but as many people as you can in the top. And then whatever you put in front of them is going to help qualify them to see if they deserve more of your attention, your money, your resources, right? So for example, if you are selling a weight loss pill, you may bring people in the top that are like ultra fit, high endurance runners, right? But they're probably not going to buy your weight loss pill, even though they're still interested in like health and fitness. So something is going to happen in that funnel that's going to disqualify them. So you stop spending money and attention and resources on them. Something like if maybe they hit like an email that says like, if you have over 300 pounds to lose, this is the easiest way to do it, right? So now they're like, all right, I'm out. This isn't for me. This is for people in a totally different area of life than me, right?
Sure.
But the people who are looking for that kind of hack for their weight loss, they're going to see your stuff and they're going to go further down in the funnel. And every time they do something else that puts them a little bit further down in the funnel, they're going to be more convinced that you're for them. So by the time they get to whatever you are spending the most time and effort on, they've already either disqualified themselves or like basically bought in already by the time they get to your button to buy.
How do you think about how many offers to put in those? Because it's when I worked with a couple of my clients, one of my clients had 5 upsells, 1-click upsells. So you already put in your credit card information for that front end product, which was, typically $39 to $69, somewhere in that range. And then there's just a progression of different things to buy afterwards that are complements to that offer. But it does seem sometimes like, man, that's just too much. Like you get to a point where you're just annoying your new customers with more and more offers. So like, I've done 4 or 5 upsells in one thing, and you do make more money, but I wonder how you think about balancing the long-term lifetime value of not annoying the crap out of them and just giving them what they wanted initially.
Yeah, I think that lifetime value is the key, because like if you're like berating them and showing them like that you're just some like aggressive freaking marketer right up front, it's only going to be a certain type of person that gets through your funnel, right? And it might not be the kind of person that wants to do high level consulting with you. Like, let's say that was your end offer, your highest level that you could work with someone, right? And so you could be chasing away some of your best customers by just like wasting their time, because you won't just like let them have what you told them they could get, right? But I don't know, I think it depends on like who you want to be seen as, and also just testing. Because I would start with one, and then if you like go to two and it works really well, awesome. And then you add another one, it works really well, awesome. But then if like your conversions drop off right away, then either you need to iterate and test a new upsell, or you're like, okay, people are raising their hand and saying I'm out. So I think it's testing, but also like who you want to be seen as. Like, I don't want to be seen as someone that like pounds people with upsells all the time, because I want to go and then be able to nurture them into higher level offers later, like consulting or big done for you packages.
Yeah, I think part of it depends on the industry you're in. So there's things like the thing that I had the most upsells for was a weight loss product.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
people are only hot for a little while. Like usually it's, a wedding coming up or a high school reunion or some big event that they have, that they all of a sudden they're super conscious about their weight, and it's a burning desire. And in 3 months, they're going to forget they ever cared about losing weight.
Yep.
The other one is business opportunity stuff. A lot of people get, they'll listen to a podcast like this and they're like, oh, I can do this. And they get really hot. And then they realize, oh no, this is actually a lot of work. And like running a real business is not just a one thing. So, but they're very hot and they don't mind being shown offer after offer.
Yeah. So that's a good point. So I think I was trying to think about how to articulate what I was thinking about this question, and you just kind of articulated it. When we were talking about creating a new problem for someone based on your previous offer, this is exactly how you think about it. So they're starting here and they want to buy something from you. And then your next upsell solves a problem that product is going to create. Right. And so if you do that too many times, the problems that you're solving are so far removed from this one that it either becomes unbelievable, or they're just like not interested, or it's not even in their paradigm. Like if we go back to the example of freelancers, if someone's just learning copywriting, trying to solve the problem of being overworked and underpaid and burnt out, like isn't even like believable to them, right? There's no way, because that's just like a problem that they can't even conceptualize yet. And so they're not going to buy that upsell. So I think it's also about like where you're meeting them and then where you're trying to take them. Like they have to consume some of the stuff and move forward in their journey before you can sell them big problems on the end, right?
Yeah, because that's a longer term, more relationship based business,
right?
Which is kind of what I'm hoping to build. I'm not here for the one off sale. I'm not in. I guess dating's another one that's like that. It's because obviously people then, if your product works, they get in a relationship and then they're happy and they don't have to worry about dating anymore.
Exactly. Like when they like get the first one, then it's like they're not going to buy something that's going to be like, oh, do you have too many women banging down your door, stalking you at night because they're so in love with you, right? Like that's not a problem that they're trying to solve when they first come into your funnel.
Right. That's their fantasy world.
Exactly.
All right. So we've been going for about 45 minutes. I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing together. So can you I don't want to give away the name of the book yet, because it might change, but I have a book and we have a couple products. Can you kind of talk about how we're going to be working together? I want to give, so what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to do this right now. And then in a few months after I have some products out and launched, I'm going to bring Rachel back on and we're going to talk about all the ways it was different than we thought and all the ways it went as planned. So can you kind of talk about our plan a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing I'd like to do with you is sit down and get a really clear idea of how your business works. I had the luxury of, when I started working with Kevin, just like knowing his business and him very intimately, right? Like I've been working with him for years as my coach. I had written for him. So we need to get to that point. So I'd like to grill you about your business, like all the things that you think about when you're talking about this stuff. I don't know. I don't want to like give too much away about the subject matter in case you change things, but yeah, the stuff that we're talking about, I want to download that from your brain just to understand how you think about things. So I've already gone and listened to some great podcasts you've done on YouTube, or the one you did with Tom Woods, just to get an idea of how you think about things. Because my whole goal is to take what's in your head and build it out into a linear learning path that someone else could easily follow and implement, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to do that first. And then I'd like to map out the funnel. So even if we don't know exactly what we're going to be selling, we can at least like map out the funnel, what we want it to look like. Because for example, if we start building products and it just seems like a no-brainer that you should have a coaching mastermind, but that makes you want to pull your teeth out, then we won't put that in the funnel, right? We're not going to like start building for something that you don't want. So we'll do that too. And then once we map out the funnel, we can decide where we want to start. And to me, the most logical place to start is at the beginning. We'll bring people into your world. The more we can do that, we can take our time building out the thing that you want to sell them or how you're going to serve them after that, right? So probably the front end stuff, whether it's an opt-in or a mini course or a smaller product that can get people to buy in your world and say, okay, I'm Henry's customer now. I'm here. Give me what you promised me and then tell me more. So that's how I'd like to approach it. And what I think would be really great, just logically to me, people are going to get your book. We know that people get books and read them and don't do anything with them. So what I'd like to do is take that book, break it down into step-by-step plan. And then that could be our first product on the back end of the book is, hey, you got this book, you've got all this knowledge. You probably knew most of this stuff and you're not doing it. Would you like a step-by-step plan and some expert guidance to help you implement everything that you've learned? So I think that's probably the easiest.
And I can tell people the book is more or less a current version of How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World, the classic Harry Brown libertarian Bible for a lot of people, but updated for the new, like the internet didn't exist when he wrote that book in the 70s. So it's a very much how to be free in this world today with this government and everything that's going on in the world. So there are actually a lot of practical steps in there that you can take. So I think that mini course is going to be valuable for people because you're right. It's one thing to read a book. It's another to like, all right, I need step by step now. How do I build the authority? How do I actually unplug myself from this machine? How do I unplug myself from the healthcare system?
How do you deal with the head trash around it too? Right. That kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. That's a big part of it is being able to overcome other people's skepticism of your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people think libertarian leaning people are just nuts and compassionless, soulless people that only care about their money, which is so far from the truth about what libertarians actually believe. Is like, oh, no, we just think human flourishing would be better off if we did it this way. So the goal is the same of what everybody else preaches. We just think we have a better way to do it using more freedom in your life.
Yeah, it's so crazy that like you say that people think libertarians are nuts because I always think of them as like right in the middle of everything else going on.
I mean, we are radical in a lot of ways of just like radically diminishing the size of government it's not something a lot of people even consider doing. Like, how would you do it? And what would the world, like, who would maintain the roads? It's like, well, there actually are all these solutions that you can talk about that the market solves all these problems. Anyway, we don't need to go too far down the libertarian rabbit hole, but
this is a good lesson for product development because what you're saying is like, what would appeal to these people is making other people understand that just because it's always been done some way doesn't mean that's how you have to continue doing it and how you shouldn't continue doing it, right? There's a better way. And that's exactly what you're selling in your product, right? You're selling there's a better way, there's a better solution. It can be simple, it can be easy, and I'm going to give you a step-by-step plan to show you how to do it. So it's exactly the exact same thing as product development as what you're selling in your product, Henry. So it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, this is great. So I can't wait to have you back on in a couple months and talk about this. But Rachel, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, let's get to work.
And where can people reach out to you if they want to get in touch or work with you on developing their own product, like I did, and just pay you an arm and a leg to have you do this stuff for them?
Well, you got to get in line because Henry and I are going to be working together for quite some time. But RachelMazza.com. My last name is Mazza, and that's the best place to find me.
All right, I'll throw that in the show notes. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Henry.